Hello, Quimbus here, member of the Freeplane user community out at sourceforge.net. If you're not a member, I would encourage you to become a member of the community. There's a tremendous amount of information available every day about the best ways to use Freeplane. The purpose of this video is to produce just a small demonstration that will highlight the basic formatting capabilities within Freeplane, namely the use of the Properties panel, the purpose of styles and their use, the ability to make styles conditional based upon automatic triggers that you establish, and finally a brief look at scripts and their use within a formatting context. There are a number of reasons why a basic knowledge of formatting within Freeplane will be helpful. First and foremost, and most important when you're dealing with mind maps, is visual interest. The whole point of a mind map is to create new hooks for your brain, and Tony Buzan's work in the area of mind mapping has established that tying visual or artistic elements of hardcore left brain data together is the most effective way to make imprints in the human brain. So formatting is a way to distinguish nodes from its siblings or from other children. It's a way to bring visual interest or highlight to parts of your map. It's absolutely critical if you're going to be a good mind mapper. Secondly, speed. The ability to quickly format a node rather than dealing with lots of minutia is important, especially in environments where you're operating at near light speed. Green lighting or note-taking, applications where information is coming in as fast as you can put it down. You don't need to spend a lot of time trying to format documents or nodes. You need to be able to do this quickly, and so a knowledge of formatting will help in that way. And finally, consistency. Nodes within your map that are like each other will have the same look and feel. This way, when you're dealing with large maps of thousands of potential nodes, those that are colored in a unique way are all alike in every way. So it allows you to quickly condition the map so that each of the nodes that are alike each other behave the same way. It also allows you to make universal changes to a group of nodes without changing the entire map. So if you're wanting to just change one category of node or a style of nodes, you can do that quickly rather than going to each node one at a time and making the changes one by each. For purposes of this presentation, I will be using Freeplane 1.2.20, available at sourceforge.net for free. Yes, free. The first component we're going to look at today is formatting and the node properties panel. The basic idea of formatting is that every node in a map can be uniquely configured in terms of its characteristics or properties. A quick look at the properties that are available for manipulation can be achieved by right-clicking anywhere in an open space in a map and then selecting from the choice Properties panel, which is a toggle. And you see I just lost mine, I brought it back up. When you look in the Properties panel, you'll see the kind of things that we're talking about in terms of formatting. You've got access to the color of the background, the color of the outline, whether or not the text is of a certain size, bold, italic. You can change whether the edges are horizontal, as I've shown them in my map here, or whether they're the more traditional curved lines that radiate away from the center root. These are all under your control for a given node, and it gives you the ability to establish certain levels of consistency or a common look, or even a different look if that's what you're trying to accomplish. I would point out that one of the most powerful features from my perspective is the minimum node width and maximum node width, which, as you see here, I've set for the same as 200. What this does is controls how wide these nodes will appear in your map, and what if they would appear at a minimum regardless of their content. So if they only had one character, they would appear in my map as 200 pixels. Maximum in my map would be 200. So as you begin to increase the text content, the map, the node doesn't expand any further than 200. Obviously, if I set these asymmetrically, I could end up with different looking nodes depending on content. So a node that had lots of text would be longer and skinnier rather than shorter and fatter. So these are adjustable. You can set these however you wish. I'll just do one right now and make this 500. So you see how it changes the behavior of that node relative to its brothers and sisters. When I look in the property panel, I can see that the others are still set at 200, and then you see that, oh, this one has a change in it from the default that they're operating under, which we'll talk about in a minute, what are defaults and what are styles. But this one, when I set it back, will revert. I can actually uncheck the change box. It has the same effect because it puts it back to the way it was. This properties panel gives you control of all the cosmetic aspects of how you want your node to present. It also serves as a dashboard to let you know what a particular node looks like and how it's currently configured. If you want to see if there are any changes in your current node vis-a-vis its default or the style that gets applied to all nodes as default, you can look here to see, as we just did a minute ago, if in fact there are changes present. I'll just encourage you to experiment with different combinations to suit your particular taste. The number of combinations are almost endless. I'll mention briefly here that there is another tab called the Calendar and Attributes tab. We won't go into a lot of detail about this at this point, but it does give you a quick place to look at dates and to insert them into your selection. For example, if I'm selected here for January the 4th, the day this was made, and I have a particular time, when I click Insert Date and Selection, you see that my text for that node was overwritten with information that was pulled out of the calendar. So it's very useful when you're trying to insert dates. I'm going to undo this, edit, undo, to put it back. But you see the calendar is a capability. There is also something here called attributes that we'll talk about briefly, but attributes are a pair of a name, an attribute name, and a value. So you could create any number of names that you wish and attach them to a node or nodes. A name could be something like completion date, and the value would be a date string of the date that the node represents a completed project. But attributes can be named anything you want. I mean, those are they're like user defined. So you define them to be whatever you want. They can be basically a data container. They can contain anything from text to URL links to values. They can even contain formulas in spreadsheet mode that is capable with Freeplane. It's outside the scope of this presentation, but I'm just mentioning them here because attributes, as we'll talk about a little later, can be harnessed in powerful ways to change the way your map looks or is formatted. Let's talk briefly about styles. Styles are simply a named grouping of pre-configured formatting elements. In other words, all the things that you see over here in the Properties panel have been configured in a unique way to give a unique feel that can be applied to a node. They also include something called icons. Icons are little pictorial elements that also can be incorporated in a style. Let me talk just briefly about what icons are. If you click out in any open space in your map, right click, you get a context menu, look under Icons toolbar, and you'll see a list, a pictorial list of all the kind of icons that I have installed in my installation. Now these later ones here you see at the bottom were brought in as a part of a library that someone else had made available, or that I had incorporated by simply clipping web elements. I mean, I went out on the web and lassoed, let's see an example, Cathay Pacific up here. I went out and just simply lassoed a portion of Cathay Pacific's website and saved it as an icon within the Freeplane context. A lot of these, such as these you see here, were obtained from websites that are out there free for anyone to use, that have thousands of icons arranged by size that you can download and install in Freeplane. There are special user directories in Freeplane. I won't go into that here, but there are ways that you can install your own icon library, and they automatically then are added to the icons that come as a part of the program. It's simple to apply an icon to a node. I'll just apply one here. You see some of them can be quite large, and they really are almost like a picture. You can make an icon out of any graphic element you can find on the web. It's just a matter of saving it in a unique way. There are converters available on the web that will convert, for example, a JPEG file to a PNG to an ICO. You can format these so that Freeplane's expected use of the file is there. But I simply highlight the node I want, find the icon I want to use, and click on it. You see it's now made a part of this root node. I'll hide the toolbar. So I can do that anytime I wish. I can apply an icon manually, as I just did. But a much better way to do that is by actually incorporating them in a style. By naming a style, again, it's the background, it's the formatting of the text, it's the edge shape and color, it's whether a cloud is present or not, any of the elements over here, plus any icon you want to include. You get to manage your styles, name new ones, modify old ones, by means of accessing the menu element Format, Manage, Styles, Edit. One of Freeplane's wonderful capabilities is that I can create a link to that address, and I've done that here, so I won't have to go up into my ribbon at the top of the program and find this. I'll just click here, but that's how you get to it. You see what opens up is a Styles Manager. Along the side you see all the icons that are available, and on the right hand side you see a reduced property panel. Also included in here is a list of predefined styles. These are styles that come with the program when you install it. And then there are what are called level styles. There is a capability within Freeplane that allows you to create different levels, so that high level styles look different than their children, have a different color and format than lower level styles. Grandchildren are even different, and great-grandchildren look even different based on their level. That's a capability that exists in the program, and when you activate it, it's actually making use of that through these level styles, which you can modify. And finally, there are user-defined styles. These are the ones I've created, but any of these that come native to the program, you can modify. In fact, many of these that you see here don't look like that when you load your own installation of Freeplane. I have modified those to fit my own needs. The way you do that, though, is you select the one you want to change. For example, this element here, let's say import it, and you can make changes to make the font bigger, for example. You see it's now bigger, and I might want to add, let's say, an icon. So I pick this star icon and apply it. I have now changed the element called important, the style called important. That word important won't show up in your node. That's just the name of the style. And then I click OK, click the checkbox, and now I have a format out there configured under a title called important. And I'll show you how to apply it right now. Come over here to my properties panel, find the element, the style called important, and when I apply it, you see what's happened. I've modified the way the element looks. The node now looks different, and it has applied the icon as I requested. So I have, with just a keystroke, with just a couple of simple keystrokes, modified the way that node looks. Let me show you again. So now see, both of these have the same look and feel. They permit a universal change when you have styles established. I'll show you how that works by simply going over and modifying the format again. I'll find the important, and I'm going to reduce the font size from 12 to 10 and save it. You see what happened? All of the two cases I have here were both changed at the same time. So this gives you a very powerful way to change all the nodes that are like each other without having to go and individually change them. That's not to say that I can't make individual changes. I can, by simply going over to the property panel, selecting something else and applying it. The little change box is checked, telling me that I have changed the font size here from what was the default in format. So you see now I have a very different looking node than the other one who carries the same style, because I overrode the defaults for that style. It's a simple matter to put it back by unchecking the change box, and now it reverts to the overriding style for this node. So these give you all the capabilities you need using styles and icons to be able to quickly structure nodes so that they have a maximum amount of meaning to you, and get your right brain working in addition to the left brain text that's in there. Conditional styles are a very powerful way to take your defined styles that we've just talked about and apply them automatically based on the presence of certain triggers that exist within your mind map. I'm going to say that again because this is really important. It allows you to automatically apply a style based on some condition that is present in your mind map, in one of your nodes, for example. Those triggers can be built around text strings, such as in node core, details, notes, or attributes. It can be based on mathematical values within an attribute. So you have a numeric value. You could do a Boolean operation on it to say, if the value is greater than a certain number, do this. If it's less than a certain number, do this. You can base it based on what was in the parent's text for a child. If a parent has certain text values, then the child will change. You can do it based on connectors, those little lines that you use, not the edges, but the lines that connect two nodes together for purposes of relating them to one another. You can change it based on date functions, etc., etc., etc. It's very simple and very quick to apply conditional styles once they've been defined, and I'll show you in just a minute about how to do that. Let me give you an example here. I just create a new node here, and this is, let's say it's a new idea. You see it now carries the default of default because I haven't done anything with it. But if I had prefaced this with a string NB, which is a string I've defined as a conditional trigger for nota bene. In other words, if I'm typing in a note group, I'm in a meeting, and I type NB colon, case specific, not lowercase nb, but capital N, capital B, colon, and hit return. You see what happens. Automatically, the program recognizes that string as a trigger and applies a format style that I call thinking. So that trigger, when I remove it, will automatically pull back to default. So you see how you can imagine now how you begin to change things. It makes it very powerful to apply complex formats with only a few keystrokes. Once a style's been established and named, this conditional trigger will apply all the time. You have the option of creating cascading triggers. Cascading triggers basically are triggers that apply to that will change a previously defined style to add other elements. So let's say you have a style that has basic text in 14 font, and a trigger is encountered that would cause that same style now to also apply bold text. So you are beginning to make styles that overlay on styles, based on all those triggers we talked about before. You set up conditional triggers by means of the menu element Format, Manage Styles, Manage Conditional Styles for Map. There are other options in there we're not going to talk about now, But suffice to say, if you go there, and I will by simply clicking on this node, you open up an editor for conditional styles for your map. You see in here I have 5 defined. One of them, core text, contains NB:\match case, in which case I apply the style thinking and I stop processing when that trigger is encountered. And this is important because the order in which these are processed and whether or not the flow continues after it's been triggered gives you the ability to create these cascades I talked about before. This one, once it's encountered, it stops, nothing else happens. But on these two down here, for example, if you encounter a trigger that says complete is an attribute is equal to 100, matching the case, which is going to be a text string, then use the completed style. But if the type contains to do, matching the case, use the action style. So one can undo the other or supplement it because these boxes aren't checked. You can make these conditional styles active by whether or not the active box is checked. Use of the up and down capability lets you rearrange the order of the conditional triggers so that ones that are encountered first get applied first before ones later in the list. You need to play with this because it gives you an incredible capability with conditional styles to do things that would take you many minutes, sometimes many minutes to apply on the fly. It just isn't possible. Or you're going to apply things inconsistently. Sometime it may be bolded and sometime your format might not be. And so you'll end up with a different look for nodes that are really related to each other in the map. So conditional styles, very important. Finally, we'll talk briefly about scripts. Scripts are like macros in an Excel environment. They're really short programs that run using a powerful language called Groovy. Groovy is a structured programming language. If you're not familiar with C or Java, if you're not proficient in those kinds of things, then you probably have a learning curve. But the good news is that there are a lot of people out there in the user community that eat and breathe macro scripting language and can help with surprisingly very simple scripts that are not complex at all to manipulate values within your map, which in turn trigger conditional styles, which in turn applies formatting. It gives you this ability with just a single click with one keystroke, because scripts can be bound to a single keystroke, like the F1 key on your keyboard. The F1 key for me, when I've installed a script, brings up a simple dialog box that allows me to quickly condition nodes in a map so that I have look and feel almost instantaneously. Their scripts are almost unlimited in their capacity. Anything you can do mechanically within Freeplane, from filtering to reordering to sorting to formatting, scripts can be harnessed to do that, as well as some amazing things outside of Freeplane. I mean, it can do things with files that are not even a part of Freeplane, but we're getting into some other advanced applications of scripting. It's beyond the intent of this video to tell you how scripting works, but simply to let you know that it's available. And they're easily installed. Once a script is installed, it's available for your use. And there are people out there on the Freeplane user community that can help you create a new script for some application. And there is a rather sizable library of scripts that have already been written, just waiting for you to bring them down and install them in your application, either as an individual script or as a part of something called an add-on. Add-ons are complex arrangements of many elements that you can install into your Freeplane operating environment that gives you capacities that don't come with a part of the native arrangement. So I just want to mention that scripts are important because they allow you to link scripts to formatting tasks, and that's why it should be mentioned here. Well, that does it for me. If you have any questions about scripting, I'm out there on the user community. Go by the name of Quinbus, or Q with an exclamation mark. If you have any questions, Many of the folks out there will be happy to help you. Just come on and join the community and drop your questions, and we'll see what we can do. I'd also appreciate any feedback. If this wasn't helpful, let me know, because we do make additional iterations from time to time and update as system capabilities change. So I would want to incorporate those changes that would have been beneficial to you. So thanks. Look forward to seeing you out on the user community. We'll see you mind mapping.